If you hear random noises in this tutorial, it's because this guy's making a bunch of noise. It's this guy making all those random noises. So I want to do a tutorial of how to make custom stencils with no drawing experience required. I prefer to hand draw my stencils. It just kind of saves me some time, and that way I can scale them how I want. But online, I've noticed you're kind of limited in size and subject matter of the stencils offered. So this is your way around that so that you can make custom stencils for pretty cheap. I like to have the stencil material be on clear contact paper. I showed that in one of my Dolphin pour videos. This is my first one. I show that process, and that one I'll link it in the description. I also show how to make a stencil out of masking tape. It is a bit more tedious because it has a lot of seams and it's more opaque, but it is there if you want to reference it. Okay, this is a very detailed tutorial. I wanted to make it so that hopefully everyone could understand it and have access to doing this process. It means it's super long. So I've included timestamps in the description if you want to bounce around or reference back to stuff. I also plan to make a more condensed tutorial on this if I can manage it. So keep an eye out for that. I'll link it in this video's description if I ever am able to pull that off. In the meantime, here's the very detailed full process for you with timestamps. So let's get started. Okay, so here I'm screen sharing so that you guys can see the whole process on the computer to get that DIY stencil. Big statement right off the bat though, even though we are creating a stencil by tracing an image, we cannot use copyright images. It's best to assume all images on the internet are copyrighted, unless they expressly say you have the right to use them commercially or for personal use. There's just a lot to it, so it's best to check into an image's license when purchasing or subscribing. Which brings me to the next portion I was going to talk about, the free programs we'll use to create this stencil. I like to use Canva to find my images. They have a free account, and even the graphics and images on their free license allow you to use them for commercial use as long as you are making a unique design, which we would be with pour painting. So I'll put a link to their license agreement in the description of this video so you can see what all it covers. Now I'm going to be using this stencil for my own personal use, meaning I'm not selling it and I'm not giving it away, and then there's the chance it could be sold off if somebody wanted to sell off something I gave them, but I still like to use Canva for my stencils to be on the extra safe side. So as far as the programs go, we'll be using Canva for finding the image, and we'll also be using it to create a digital canvas, meaning the canvas size that we'll be using in real life. We'll create that in Canva so we can scale in proportion the Dolphin stencil, what will be our Dolphin stencil, to how big we want it to be on our real life canvas. And then from there, we'll save that as an image and take it into Google Sheets and then print it off on multiple pages so that it's printed to the right size. Google Sheets is free, but it does require a Gmail account, and a Gmail account is free. So if you don't have one, it's free to set up, and you could just save it and, strictly use it for your art projects. So let's get going here. Okay, so for finding Canva, you're just going to want to type in www.canva.com, and I will put a link to Canva and all of the other stuff in my video description, so it's easy to just click on. And this is where you'll sign up for a free account. I already have an account, so I'm just going to switch over to my logged in page. So you'll sign up and then log in, and then you should see something like this where you're logged in. I'm logged in here. And so this is the home page, and I do have a pro account, but I'm only going to be using the free images so that if you just have the free account, you'll know where to find those. So the thing I really love about Canva is that we can create a design any size that we want. So to start, we're going to come up here to create a design and click on that. And then down here, we're going to go all the way down to custom size, this plus button right here. And right off the bat, I see that it's loaded pixels. That's what it defaults to. And I'm going to switch that to inches because I want to know the size of my digital canvas is the same size as the canvas I'll be using in real life. I'm going to be using a 16 inch by 20 inch canvas for this project. And so it's going to be landscape. I'm going to have landscape. So my width is my longest feature. So I'm going to make that one 20 inches in this box, the width box. And then height will be 16 inches. And I'm just going to simply click create new design. Click. Okay, so over here we have our digital canvas. We know it's 16 inches by 20 inches. It looks like just a, a regular rectangle. We're going to add in our dolphin and size it so that it takes up the most amount of space that we want on the canvas, but isn't too big for our canvas. So we come over here to the left side, this left bar, and you see the one named Elements. Click on Elements, and this is where we can find our shapes, our images, our graphics, anything. So I'm going to type in Dolphin because I am planning on making a Dolphin 3 tutorial. So I will be actually using this actual stencil on a 16 inch by 20 inch canvas to make an actual pour painting. So Dolphin. Type that in and hit enter and see what we get here. So right now it's showing all of the options. So we have a video, we have, silhouettes, we have illustrations, we've got photos. So that's a lot to sort through. I'm going to go up here since I do have a pro membership. I'm going to filter out so that it says free only, so that we can just find something that's on the free version. And right off the bat, I really like this one. This one shows all of the body parts really good. I probably, whenever I'm tracing, so when you're searching for your image, keep in mind all you're going, since it is a stencil, we're not going to be using anything on the inside of the dolphin. So you really want to think about the outline and if it still makes sense as a shape. And probably for this one, I'll not trace over this second fin. I'll just draw right up underneath the chin and belly there. But this is a very nice, I'm looking for a dolphin that's jumping out of the water. I'm not a huge fan of this shape. This doesn't show the dolphin fin on the outside. I mean, you could just try to hand draw the dolphin on the outside, but if you're thinking about all the inside being black, what shows on the outside, and the fin does not pop out of the outside, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's making sense. I do like this dolphin shape, but I'm not a huge fan of the tail. I think it reminds me more of like a mermaid, and so I do like this tail. So I think I'm going to click this one. They have lots of options you can go through. Like this one's pretty good. A bit better tail than this one up there. That one's actually not bad. But I kind of like the gentle curve of the belly right here, belly chin area, than the harsh right there. So this one's a pretty good one, but the nose is kind of short. Just have to think of it in terms of what the outline will be. Okay, to keep it simple, I'm just going to go with this one. There's lots of options on here, and you can sort it by just graphics or by just photos, depending on whatever you're looking for. So graphics will stick with those illustrations, and photos will obviously be real life photos. So back to this one, all you have to do to select it is just click it, and I'll pop it over here on your digital canvas. So I selected this dolphin. The really nice thing about the dolphin in Canva here, or images in Canva, is you can rotate them to get a better angle. Like, I don't want it jumping out of the water like this. I want my dolphin to be pretty much like that. And you can also, it's really handy here that if you have a direction the dolphin you want it, or any image, to be going, you can flip it. So flip horizontal, and I can pick that way and see if I like that better. For some reason, I always put my dolphins going this way, so I'm going to flip it back. That just makes more sense to me. I like that a lot. Okay, so this is the dolphin in here, and whenever I'm basically like figuring out the composition of where my stencil is going to be and how big my dolphin is, I like to consider other components. So other components for me is I'm combining my two dolphin tutorials, and one of them had water at the bottom. So I want to try to figure out how much of this 20 inch by 16 inch canvas I'm going to take up with the water portion of, just an approximation of the canvas. So I'm actually going to come back over here to Elements, click on Elements again, and type in, I'm just going to pick a line. All I need is a line, really, to just a basic line to figure out how much space on the canvas my water is going to take up. And again, this is just an approximation, a visual approximation. So overall, I think this is too little of water at the bottom. Too big of water takes up too much space. So I think right there is a good approximation. So now I can work my way with my dolphin because I want to make him as big as I can, but considering the water also. And I also want him not touching this portion of the water because I do want that splash off coming off of the tail. I also don't want the top of the dolphin fin too close to this top edge, because whenever you have something too close to the edge like that for your main image, it draws the eye up there like, oh, it creates tension in the overall effect. It draws the eye whenever there's two tangents coming together, in my personal opinion. So I don't want it too close to the top. So Canva makes it really easy. It's a pretty intuitive platform. So to resize, any image should pop up with this blue-purple box around it and these white dots on each of the corners. So to resize, you're gonna hover over one of the white dots till this double-headed black arrow pops up, and then you're going to click and hold your mouse and drag outward of the image to make it bigger and inward to make it smaller. So I'm just approximating here. I'm gonna drag it out, maybe pick this corner, drag it out, and right now I'm like, maybe I want it to be a little rotated more like that. I think that's better. And so I'm still considering from my approximate water edge here how much space I want from the tail, and that honestly looks pretty good. And I could get it a little bit, this dolphin fin a little bit bigger, so I could make the whole dolphin a little bit bigger. I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty big dolphin to take up that space. So overall, if you're tired of looking at this box, you can just click in this blank area out here and that'll get rid of the box. When you hover over the image, it tries to be like, do you want to grab this image? So if you just want to look at your canvas, just click on the outside area and it should take away that box, and then you can kind of assess. And I think overall the size of this dolphin is really good to the size of my digital canvas here, therefore my real canvas. And I have a good amount of water. I've got room for the splash off the tail, and my dolphin isn't too close to that top edge. So I love the size of this dolphin. I think it's ready to go. There is one more thing I want to do, and that's probably add in lines for myself for being able to cut out the paper as a whole canvas size. This is an extra step I'm doing since I'm printing the entire digital canvas to show you that the scale really does translate to real life. If I was just doing this for myself at home, I would only be printing the dolphin portion and then just kind of like approximating it on the canvas. But I need to be able to see where the whole picture is, so I'm going to make a very thick line. That's pretty good. And I'm going to, again, you don't need to do this unless you want to. If you want to, you come over here, you pick a line, same line it could be, and then there's weight up here. So you click on these 3 lines, and this line weight, you just move it up and down until that line is the size that you want, and that's pretty good. And now we can drag it over. I'll start with the top, drag it to the top left corner, and then I resize it by looking for these crosshairs over this white dot on the end. Click and hold and drag all the way to where you want it. And then this is the fun part. So it's still selected because I see these white dots. So I'm gonna hit Control C on my keyboard, Control C, and then I'm gonna hit Control V. So Control C is for copy, Control V is for paste. And so now I see I have 2 lines. So I'm just gonna come up here to that second line that popped up, hover over it and click and hold and drag it down to the bottom line. I'm creating a border so I can, like I said, cut it out. And so this is still the line. And so to get my side lines, I'm actually just going to come down to this bottom one and do Control C again and Control V. And it's hard to see it, but it did pop up down there. So I clicked it and move it, and it's going to be too long, but I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees since it's going to be on the side. So it shows the degrees over here, 90, and I'm going to drag it to the side and drag up those ends. I don't even know if I actually need to drag up the ends. Now I'm going to click this line, Control C, Control V, and there it popped up. I'm going to carefully click on it and move it to the other side. So there you go. I have a border. I could have probably come over here and gotten a rectangle. It's just sometimes I have a hard time finding the right size rectangle to create the border, and I wanted it to be really precise with with the size of my canvas so that I'm not eating into space. So, okay, so now we're gonna save our file, but we're also gonna rename it so that we know how to find it. So come up here to the top bar on the left side and you see File and click on that. And then up here is where we can change the name of our file. I'm going to name it Dolphin Stencil. So you just click once in there and type in your name. And so I have the name there and you hit enter. So now that we have the title changed, I just like to click Save Again under All Changes Saved. So this is saving the image, this project in Canva. Now we need to save it to our computer. So we're actually going to, on the top bar, go all the way over to the right and click on this share button. So click it. And then we're gonna scroll down here to download and click that. And it defaults to PNG. I'm actually gonna save it as a JPEG, I think. Save as a JPEG. So you click on that PNG and it gives you a drop down box. I like to do this next portion as a JPEG. So JPEG and quality looks good. Alrighty, so then you hit download and it's downloading. So it automatically saves it in your downloads folder of your computer. So it says completed. So I'm actually gonna go to my computer's download folder to make sure it's there. So pull that up. And yep, there it is. So it is in there. Okay, so now for the next portion, we're gonna go to Google Sheets. So in your URL, where you type in your URLs, type in Google Sheets. Hit enter. Your results may look different than mine. I'm using Google Chrome so I can search on my URL bar. You may need to go to Google directly and search there for Google Sheets. Either way you have it, I will have Google Sheets linked in this video's description so you can find it super easy. But if you're looking for the URL from your browser, you're going to be looking for https://sheetsnew. That's .new. And that's hard to say. They actually just changed this. I had looked at this a couple weeks ago, and so this changed up, this URL right here. But I just wanted to show you that depending on which browser you're using, it's not going to be, for me, it wasn't the first two. So just see what makes more sense. Like this one is about Google Sheets, which that's not what I want. And then this one's about how to go get the app on Google Play. They must be pushing for the app. And so this is the one that's using the browser version of Google Sheets. So when you click this, the sign in for Google is going to pop up, and this will be your Gmail account. If you don't have a Gmail, it's pretty easy to sign up for one. Go to your browser, look for google.com, or type in Gmail, enter that, and you're going to want to look for legitimately www.google.com/Gmail. And this one says about, but it'll also take you to create a Gmail account. So you want to go to the authentic google.com, make sure your link says google.com, and click on that, and that should help get you set up, create an account. So that's if you need a Gmail account. And then you'll enter in your Gmail here, click next, and then enter in your password and click next. And I already have mine logged in, so I'm just going to click over to mine. So this is Google Sheets. This is what it looks like. And the first thing we're going to do is actually resize our column A. So I've tried this before, and whenever you import and insert an image, you can resize it, but it doesn't quite exactly resize it to the full capacity. So I found a workaround for it, which is resizing this column A here to our width. So I know our width is 20 inches, or my width is 20 inches. Yours will be whatever you choose. So hover over column A and you'll see this faint gray little drop down arrow. So click on the drop down arrow, and then we're going to go down to Resize Column. So again, we're resizing the column so it'll be the width of whatever our canvas will be. So it says enter new column width in pixels, and we're like, what are pixels? Just kidding. Pixels are a unit of measurement that they use on computers, and so I actually had looked this up, that the number of pixels in Google Sheets that equals an inch in real life is 96. So I took that 96 number and times it by my 20 inches, or 20, and the number that came up is 1,920. So that's going to get me, and hit enter, that's going to get me a column that is the width of my 20 inches. So I will know how to resize my canvas. Now, we can't see the full width right now because it's too big. So go up here to View and click on Zoom and click on 50%. And that will show you a zoomed out scope of our column A here. So now we know this length right here is 20 inches. So now we can insert our picture and then scale it to our full 20 inches. So come up here to Insert, click on Image, and click Insert Image Over Cells. Okay, so here is a new window, and this is where you can drag your file in or browse. I'm gonna click Browse. And here it pops up my Downloads folder. You just look in whatever folder you know your stencil image was saved in, and mine was in the Downloads folder. And so I'm gonna double click on my Dolphin stencil, and that will load it into Google Sheets here. Now, obviously that is not as wide as my column A, so it's constantly working against us to try to downsize it for us so that it can print on regular, like, one sheet of paper type thing. It's like, oh no, we really know you didn't mean to scale it up that big. So we're constantly having to correct it. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Click the image. Since this cell is selected, click on the image. And you'll know it's selected whenever it's highlighted in a blue box with these blue squares around. So now click on the center of the image again with this little hand, click and hold. And you're gonna wanna drag it up to the top left corner. I just like it so that it's all precisely tucked up in there, so whenever we drag it down, we'll be dragging it to the very end of column A here, because that's where our 20-inch mark is. So you don't wanna drag the sides or the top or bottom, because it's not doing it proportionally. It's going to stretch out your image. And I just wanna save myself the headache of trying to, proportion it. I'm gonna hit Control Z to undo this. Control Z as in zebra is undo in most programs, so that's super handy to know. Okay, I'm gonna click on my image again. How you can resize this proportionally is the corners. So I'm gonna select this lower right corner until I get that double-headed arrow. Click and hold that corner and drag it all the way down so that my very end edge here is lined up with column A. All right, now I know my actual image in Google Sheets is now back to 20 inches. But we have one more step before we print, which is to resize column A, because column A staying this 20 inches does weird things in print preview. So I found a little workaround, and I just need to size it back down to its column width size. So go back to that tiny little box, drop down arrow box, and try to click on it. And go back to Resize Column, click. Okay, I'm gonna go back to that 100 that was in there before I resized it and click Enter. Okay, column A went back to regular. So now we're going to either print, if you have a printer at home, or save as PDF so that you can take it somewhere else to get it printed. Either email it to yourself, or depending on size, email or USB drive or something to the library or FedEx or wherever there is a printer for you to print off these pages. Now, let's rename our file so we have that saved. Up here where it says Untitled Spreadsheet, just click once. It'll highlight it in blue, and I'm gonna name it Dolphin Print, so I'll know that's the file that I always want to print. Hit Enter. And so I'm going to show you both ways to print or save as PDF. So we're going to go to File, click, and all the way down to Print. And here, yet again, it tries to scale it down for us. And we're going to fix that because that's not the goal. This would be a very tiny stencil. So, as we can see up here, it's like a total of 2 pages because it, split it at this very small scale. So, over here, all of this looks good. The print current sheet, don't need to touch that. It defaults to the right paper, regular printer size. Make sure landscape is selected for page orientation. And this guy, this box is the one we need to fix, scale. It defaults to fit to width, and that's not what we want. We want normal 100%. That 100% means 100% of that 20 inches that we resized the image to. So click on normal 100%. And boom, now we have a total of 9 pages. It's a big surface we're covering. And so let's make sure that we have all of our pages and our dolphin is included on all of this. So head of the dolphin, dorsal, back, and that's the under nose and the under fins, and there's the tail. So all of the dolphins included, and all of my border is included too. And like I said, if I was just doing this for a personal project, I would literally just print the pages with the dolphin in it, because I wouldn't need all the extra stuff. But for purposes of this tutorial, I wanted to print the full 16" by 20" image so that you guys can see that it did print to the actual canvas size we picked. So now that we've double checked all of our pages are here, we're gonna click on next. Okay, so now I get this print preview window, and hopefully you should have it too, a new window. And this is where we can either just print it direct or save it as a PDF. So you're gonna select that where it says destination. Whatever your window looks like, look for the area that says destination. And mine defaults to my Canon printer. So if I wanted to print from here, I would have this default selected. But if you wanna save it as a PDF, you click on this destination window and click on Save as PDF. And that'll save it as a file to a folder that you select. So I also here, whichever way we go, I wanted to show you that you can get this from the 9 sheets of paper that I had, or am still gonna print. Come down here to Pages, and you can select Custom Pages. So just the 4 with the dolphin in it that you want. So we know page 1 here, page 2, it shows the page number while you're scrolling. Not page 3, that doesn't have any dolphin in it, but page 4 and page 5 do. So 1, 2, 4, and 5 all have portions of the dolphin in it. So if I was just doing this for myself, I would, on this custom pages, type in 1 through 2, comma, since we don't need page 3, space, 4 through 5. And then that will show you the full file now that's gonna print is head of dolphin, back of dolphin, end of nose and fin, very tiny areas, and then the tail. And that's it. So 4 pages to print instead of the full 9. It's pretty cool. So you can either print that direct from here, or you can save just that portion as a PDF. So for me, I'm just gonna go back to all because I am going to print all of it. Okay, back to all. Okay, so I did just wanna show you what happens whenever you click Save as PDF. So I'm gonna save as PDF. And again, here, you could go to Pages and make sure you select your custom pages that you wanna save as one file. So click Save, and then it'll pop up, where do you wanna save it? And mine automatically pops up, Downloads. And in the name, it saves it as Dolphin Print - Google Sheets PDF, which is fine. I would save it as that. So I'm just gonna click Save in my Downloads folder. I'm gonna go to my Downloads folder just to show you that it's there. Here it is, Google Print - Google Sheets.pdf. I'm gonna double click on it to see what all's inside. And there you have it, 1 of 9 pages. So I got all of my 9 pages in there. So now it's saved as its very own file, so I could email it to myself and then take it somewhere, load it onto a USB drive or something to take it somewhere to get it printed. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna print it on my home printer here. So I'm gonna go back to Google Sheets and go back to Print. All of that looks good. All 9 pages. Click Next. Go back to Destination and change it to my printer, and I'm going to print all 9 pages. And then I'm going to show you guys how we tape it together and then transfer it over to some Con-Tact paper. So here we go. Okay, so here are the printed images, all 9 of them. And we're going to cut and tape them together. The printer puts a margin all around, so we'll systematically cut one margin off so we can tape this part of the image right up next to this part. I leave one margin because it takes less cutting that way. So I'll cut and tape row 1 together. I leave one margin. It takes less cutting that way, but you can certainly cut off both margins and just really push the 2 edges up next to each other and then tape. Then cut and tape row 2. Then tape row 1 to row 2. Now I'll cut and tape row 3 together. And then tape row 3 to row 2. And then there's this big margin on the outside of my image, so I'll cut this off. This is why I put that black box around it, so that it would be easier to see where that margin is. And here it is. Now, I had a lot to piece together. If I was just making a stencil of the dolphin, I'd tape just these 4 pages together that make up the dolphin, or whatever part of the image that you have. Saves paper and time that way. But again, I want to print the full thing to show you that we can scale the stencil to proportionally fit our real-world canvas. So here's my 16" by 20" canvas, and here's the full print off. Voila, it's perfect. Now for the stencil paper, I use clear, matte, Con-Tact paper. Some places call it shelf liner. It has a good amount of adhesive so it sticks to the canvas, but not so sticky that it won't come off. And I'll link where I got mine in the description of this video, but I'll also link a product that's pretty similar to it on Amazon. For this video, I'm going to measure a 16" by 20" piece of Con-Tact paper. The paper that I'm using here is really nice because it has this grid on the back, so it makes it pretty easy to see what size. And I wanted to show you, the paper part with the lines is the backing of the Con-Tact paper, and this clear or frosted part is the front. This is what needs to be facing up when tracing. So place your Con-Tact paper on top of your printed image with the backing side down. Then tape your Con-Tact paper to the printed image. Or if your image is smaller than the sheet of Con-Tact paper, flip it all over and tape the printed image to the Con-Tact paper. You just want the printed image and Con-Tact paper attached together while tracing so you don't lose your place and it doesn't slide around and mess up the image. Okay, now for a Lightbox. I do not own a Lightbox, but if you have a tray like this or a clear plastic storage tub, they're pretty easy to get a similar effect. All you need is something that light can shine through, but is also flat, so you can set your Con-Tact paper on it to trace. I'm using this tray. It's deep enough to hold a phone light or book light under it. The book light is not very bright, but it'll work. I just want a little light assistance for seeing the edge of it better. So now we trace. So I just use a Sharpie and I trace around the outer edge. Keep in mind, the more complicated the shape you draw, the more complicated cut you'll have to make. And then that will mean the trickier it'll probably be to peel up after your pour is dry. So I like to try to find that good balance of simple shape, but also, you know, gets the point across of what the image is. Okay, all traced. Then it's time to cut the printed image off the Con-Tact paper. I like to save it in case I want to use it for a different art project. Now that we have it traced, you have 2 options. You can either cut out the image shape and pour into it, like here in my Dolphin 1 video, I'm pouring into the dolphin shape. Or you can cut out the image shape and use it on a dried pour to preserve the shape and paint over the rest. Like here in my Dolphin 2 video, I use a cutout of the dolphin in some water, then I paint a different background, then remove the cutout. So for my 3rd video, I'm going to be pouring into the dolphin and I'm going to be using this stencil. So I start the cutout process by gently folding the Con-Tact paper in half, so I can carefully make an initial cut on the inside of the dolphin shape. I like to cut a big area out of the middle so it makes cutting the smaller details around the border easier with maneuverability. Be careful that you don't cut the outside of the image though. This will make a split in the stencil that you'll have to really seal up before you pour. Otherwise you can get some leakage. Alright, and there it is all cut out. And I'm going to tape it to the canvas so we can see the shape better. If you're interested in the application of Con-Tact paper stencils, check out my Dolphin 1 video in the description. If you want to see how I do a cutout of masking tape, check out my Dolphin 2 video in the description. And I will be completing a detailed tutorial of a 3rd dolphin video that I will link in this video when I get it uploaded. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. Thank you bunches!